Isolation day 198. It's Sunday the 18th of October. I hope you're all well and you're looking after yourselves. What I'd like to do today is give you an update on my previous video, which was to week 18 of being on the low-fat plant-based whole food diet. I've now been on it for 22, actually 23 weeks, but I'm going to give you the information to the end of week 22, Monday the 13th of October. So let's briefly revisit the issues that I was experiencing before, which were namely quite a few lows. Okay, it had improved significantly, but I was still going low, which means my insulin sensitivity was getting better and better. At the time, I wasn't training too hard. I'd stayed off of the training for a few weeks. Now I'm back to training, and therefore my insulin sensitivity should have improved even further, and my requirements for basal insulin would have reduced somewhat. This is what you're going to see here. I'll give you the full details in a second. What else was happening? The other issue that I was experiencing was weight loss, and I had stopped that, but I was also having days here and there that I was struggling somewhat to achieve the number of calories that I needed to just maintain my weight. I feel I've done that at the moment, but what I'd like to do is, and the undertaking last time was to increase the calories further. The only other thing that was outstanding was the fact that my carb intake in comparison to being on keto was astronomically high. A huge difference, a completely different lifestyle. But what I wanted to do was to take that even further and see how it went and see the effect it had on my blood sugar. Because in theory, if we were to sit here and say, you know what, I'm going to increase the number of carbs that you're going to take further, what you would instantly come to is a conclusion that potentially more insulin would be needed, firstly, and also you might be getting quite a few hikes in blood sugars. So let's see. So this is my spreadsheet of all of the information that I've had from before I moved on to the plant-based whole food. You can see here there are 4 days on the ketogenic diet, and I've tracked calories, fat in grams, carbs consumed, total insulin consumed, carb to total insulin ratio, basal insulin usage, and carb to bolus insulin ratio effectively. And I've done that each day and then had a average for the 4 days on keto. Here I will show you week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and it just carries on. And what I've got here is the last video that I recorded with to you guys was week 18. And this was all of the individual days, the individual fat in grams. What I added to it was the fat as a percentage of calories. And this, for the Mastering Diabetes team, is the most important factor. For insulin sensitivity, if you haven't seen these videos before and you're watching this for the first time, for insulin sensitivity, ideally you want to be below 15% of your calories consumed being fat. And I think ideally you want to be around about the 10%. You can see that actually I'm around about 7, although, yes, still around about 7. Carbs consumed. One of the important factors for me was calories and therefore carbs. The more carbs you consume, the more calories you consume. The fact is that I won't lose weight if I consume enough calories. It is a constant problem with people on a plant-based diet consuming enough calories, especially when you are not sort of eating cheese and other bits like that, you know, and cooking with oil, which many vegans do. They don't have an issue with the fat percentage, whereas those guys that are on this Mastering Diabetes journey will endeavor to eat a low amount of fat to keep your insulin sensitivity as sensitive as possible and as high as possible. Now, so you can see all of the data that I've analysed, and now what I've done is I've taken the last week, which is week 22. And the reason I haven't shown you the previous 3 weeks is What I did was I worked up to the final week of the month, okay, and that's all I want to show you. I want to show you the final one of the last month. So here we have a summary, and I will show you everything. So this is under keto. My fat consumption in grams was 102, total insulin 31.5, basal 24.3. So let's look at that as a percentage. 77% of the insulin that I was consuming was basal insulin, 23% was bolus therefore, and carbs consumed 56. Not a lot of carbs, as you can imagine on the ketogenic diet. That makes sense. Carb to insulin ratio, and this is carb to total insulin ratio, 1.8. Carb to bolus insulin alone was 7.7. Okay, now this is week 1, week 2, week 3. I'm not going to revisit those. Let's look at week 9. Fat in grams was 10. There's a 90% reduction from where I was on the ketogenic diet. Fat as a percentage of calories was 10%. So right bang on, smack on where the Mastering Diabetes team give us the guidance to get. Total insulin consumed 19.5. That's a 38% reduction. Basal insulin was 46% down, 13.1, and I was consuming only 182 grams of carbs. So the carb to insulin ratio was 500% higher, 300% higher on carbs. Carb to insulin ratio was 5 times higher. Now let's discount week 9 because that was quite a while ago. Week 18, 31.8 total carbs consumed, total insulin consumed. So pretty much exactly the same as what I was consuming on the ketogenic diet, but a 600% increase in carbs consumed. So that's incredible in many ways. Same insulin, 6 times the amount of carbs. Total carb to insulin ratio was 10.6. Almost a 6 times that as well. Now, the movement from week 18 to 22, you can see the carbs consumed are up. The average was 420. I want to show you this week in particular. This is the day that I consumed 511 grams of carbs. When I started this process, I never would have thought that would have happened ever, and it did, and I did, and I managed 511 grams of carbs, which is amazing, absolutely incredible. Let's go back to the summary. 420 grams of carbs on average, okay, for that week. That's a 750% increase in carbs, and I'm taking 10% less total insulin. If you can believe that, if I would have started this journey and seen that, I would have said there's just no way. It's physically impossible, cannot happen. And I work with numbers every day of the week. That for me is the crux of the situation, and that tells you how powerful insulin sensitivity is. That proves that the most important factor is this fat intake. Carb to insulin ratio was 1.8 under keto. 4 weeks ago was 10.6. I'm now up to 14.8. That's an 800% increase in my carb to insulin ratio. That's the kind of figure that the Mastering Diabetes team are looking at for many other people. They've got lots of examples of this. But for me to show it, I had to analyze it in this way. And this was my way of tracking exactly what's happening to me. Because gut feel is one thing, evidence is another. This is the data, this is categorical, this has come from all of the information that I've drawn. The bolus carb to insulin ratio has gone from 7.7 to 28 on average. Okay, 360% increase. I really do hope that you can understand that how life-changing these figures are for me, going from this to this. It is just a completely different world, one that I didn't expect, or yeah, did I hope for it? Yes, I did hope. I did want to be eating, a more varied, nutrient dense foods. That's what I wanted, and that's, you know, I think it's really important to keep your health at the top of your priority list. And I know that ketogenic diet was not the best thing for my health. I wanted to show you this because this is my Medtronic CareLink report. I can show you the Dexcom report as well, but I thought this was really important to show you because whilst I'm consuming 420 grams of carbs on average, can you see how often I'm going low? The lows are in reds, the highs, and I've set my high to be anything over 9, the highs are in orange. What you can see from here is, look, 1 o'clock in the morning till 9 o'clock, which is half of the lows, are happening overnight. That is a basal rate issue. I've also told you at the start that I was training. Now I've set in place to train between 6 o'clock and 8 o'clock in the evening. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of the lows are actually after I'm exercising. Again, that will be a basal rate issue which I need to adjust for the exercise. Both of those things are being adjusted and have been adjusted since this week. Okay, I'm working with Kylie Buckner, which I'll speak about a bit later. We're attending to both of those. The highs, let's talk about the highs. The reason that I am showing highs at times isn't because of the carbs in the food. 80% of this is because of the speed with which I'm eating. Because I'm hungry at times, I do struggle somewhat with holding myself back from eating all of the food. And if I don't take the insulin early enough and let the insulin take effect, then what I can find is I do get spikes quite early on after I eat. If, for instance, if you think about it, if you were to eat 100 to 150 grams of carbs, which I do at times, you would also have a spike, I imagine. If you eat it all at once and you take the insulin for it, the insulin takes time to obviously to activate and takes time to work. That's what I'm learning over time. That's part of this process as well, is to understand how long the insulin takes to work and how long you should eat your breakfast over. So, as I've explained, a lot of these lows through the night are basal rate issues. A lot of these lows at night are due to exercising. Both of those things I can attend to. I did want to just pop back and show you this, because earlier I stated that my basal percentage was 77%. If we take 13.4 divided by 28.5, my basal insulin is now 47%. That's a 30% reduction in basal insulin of your total daily insulin. And as I understand it, from all of the reading that I've done, ideally you want to be at roughly 50-50 or somewhere around that level, not up at 77% for basal, which I was on the ketogenic diet. This is much more balanced. Now let's take a look at the Dexcom Clarity for the same week. Okay, 71% in range. Now overall, that's not too bad. As I said, target range 3.9 to 9, 71% in range, 20% low, 7% very low. I can reduce that. I ideally would undoubtedly want to get rid of all of these very lows, and I want to reduce these lows significantly. 2% high, I don't think I can complain about that. Let's be honest. Average glucose 4.8. Let's look a little lower. They found 2 patterns. Well, surprise, surprise. I have a pattern of nighttime lows between 1 and 255. We saw that on the Medtronic report. And I also have a pattern of daytime lows between 5:45 and 7:40. That's interesting. So that almost gives you an indication that I might have been a little low before I started training at 6 or 7 o'clock. Okay, let's look at the daily. And if you remember, I had a day where I consumed 511 grams of carbs, and that was on the 9th. And you can see it was low early in the morning, not bad during the day. Yes, it went up for breakfast, 8.2, consumed a lot of carbs, remember, 8.2, not too disappointed with that. Dropped down, lunch only went up to 7.2, and then evening when I exercised it was low, yes, and evening here off mid-afternoon I was actually low again. So again, I think what we're talking about is majority basal rate, but there might be some bolus in there as well. But that day I consumed 511 grams of carbs. So let's consider the other changes that have happened in the last month to contribute towards those figures and the movements that you've seen between week 18 and week 22. The major change has been that I've subscribed to the Mastering Diabetes team for one-on-one coaching. And I've been really lucky because I've got Kylie Buckner, and Kylie has been assisting me for the last 2.5-3 weeks. And this one-on-one coaching, not only is it really useful for my mindset, but I think one-on-one coaching is really good for accountability. It's really good to keep you on track, and just at times, especially when you're looking at so many figures and so much information, it can get confusing. It can become quite overpowering at times. So Kylie's been helping me, and obviously, as you've seen, I've had issues overnight with my blood sugars, so we've been reducing my basal rates quite considerably, and then you'll see this in my next video. We've also been working on the fact that I'm exercising, and we've set a time period for exercising, and we're working on basal rates then as well, and also we're looking at bolus rates for at the times of eating after exercise. So the main aim going forwards, as you can tell, as it always has been since the start for 22 weeks, has been to reduce the number of lows. Yes, I'm getting a few spikes at times, but what I'm finding is that the spikes are more in relation to the fact that I'm not controlling when I'm eating. So I'll take my insulin and I'll eat too quickly. And when you're eating 150 grams of carbs and you eat that all at once, straight away, without taking your time, what you get is spikes, okay? And that would happen for anyone, not just someone who's type 1. But as I say, the undertaking going forwards is, what I want to do is I want to record one more video, and I'm going to record that at week 26. That's going to be 6 months of being on the low-fat, plant-based whole food method and diet, following the Mastering Diabetes team and guidance. And I'm going to record one more video, and what I'm aiming to give you guys is a overview of the number of lows, and I want to give you as well time in range. And I think that's a really important factor. Talking to Kylie and talking to the team, time in range is really very important. And as you can tell, if I've got lows and highs, my time in range probably is a little bit distorted at the moment. That saying that though, I know that where my time in range is at present. Can it be better? I'm sure it can for everyone. Let's be honest. That's the reality. You can always look at it and go, I could improve on that. But I'm consuming over 500 grams of carbs in one day. At no stage, when I listen to Cyrus and Robbie saying they consume 500, 600, 700 grams of carbs, that was the stratosphere for me. That was just impossible to even comprehend on a ketogenic diet. And now I'm doing it. And the strange thing is, when you look back at the day when I consumed over 500 grams of carbs, I went low that day. And I'm consuming 10% less insulin than what I was when I was on the ketogenic diet, eating 56 grams of carbs. This method works, okay? There is no debate in my mind now whether this does or doesn't work. What I need to do is work out the nuances to ensure that my time in range is as high as it possibly could be, and I do as you know, the very best job that I can on it. So I'm going to track it for the next 4 weeks, and I'm going to do one final video, because I realize my videos are called In Isolation. They're not really in isolation anymore, but I guess I'm relatively isolated in so much as I'm doing the Mastering Diabetes method. However, I'm using all of the tools, and I'm really thankful for all the help that I'm getting from all of the team, and especially Kylie at the moment. So I hope you guys have enjoyed and got value from this today. And if anyone out there is considering doing this, as I say with everything, it's all well and good hearing what I'm doing, but you guys have got to do it. You've got to go and try it and analyze the data, okay? Because in my mind, it's clear now what I should have been doing many years ago, and I haven't been doing it. So I'm going to improve and do everything going forwards. If you like this video, please tick the like button below. Leave me any messages, any comments. I'd love to hear what your views on it, and I'll catch up with you in just over 3 weeks' time for one final video. Okay, take care everyone, look after yourselves.